Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Time for my review for Power Rangers Beast Morphers Season 2, Episode 6, I believe this was. We only got a few more episodes, probably before the hiatus. This was an interesting episode. It was kind of a mixed bag for me. I thought it was a solid episode that actually got some momentum going on some stuff, but it was also paired with a weird moral lesson. Like, it was... The screen time for this week was almost equally spent, I feel, between Nate being taken over and helping Evox and them trying to free Nate from this control, and this weird moral lesson episode about Steel learning the concept of discipline and like taking it too far, because when they're at the park he sees a dad discipline his daughter and they teach him about discipline, and then so he's like disciplining everyone left and right like too far. I've definitely I don't think I've seen that type of moral lesson on PR before. It was interesting because on the positive side, I feel like it was one of the rare ones that wasn't so black and white. Usually when Power Rangers does its moral lesson of the week, it's like 1950s, there's only one way to go about it. And I was surprised they were actually like, yeah, this is kind of a gray area where you're going too far. Like, people are breaking small rules or making small mistakes, and sometimes you can let that go. And so I wanted to highlight that because I thought it was weird, because usually it's pretty cut and dry, and I like that this was kind of a little bit more of a gray area. But still, the main thing about this episode should have been the Nate stuff, because it's continuing a little plot that I don't remember if it started next week or next week. It started in the future. It started the previous week or the week before, but there was this plot about Evox needing Nate for something, and he used the puppeteer bot to gain control of Nate so that he could use his skills, because he needs his skills for something of which we don't know about. Of course, we got to see that, and then he also had control of Nate, so he used him to fight the other Rangers, and so there was some good stuff there, and that was like a main plot-related thing in a way. And I feel like that should have been the whole episode. Like, I don't know why we had to shoehorn in a moral lesson. I mean, there was that bit about the guy that got the mind control puppet into Nate was somebody Steel was tough on earlier for breaking a small rule, so like he got fired because it seemed like he was just really being negligent when the second time it happened was because of mind control. But that didn't need to be in there. I feel like I wish they would, when they want to do an episode like this where it was like about Nate's kidnapping or mind control or whatever, it should have just been about that. Like, we don't need to shoehorn a lesson into every episode. Like, this one wasn't so bad. It just bothered me because I did appreciate that we were continuing a main plot, but I felt like, why do we have, can we just have separation? Like, here's a stupid filler episode about a lesson, and then here is a plot episode, but we don't need to have a moral lesson in it. Honestly, my hope is, as we get deeper into the Hasbro era, into more of their different series and movies or whatever, as they start hiring more of their own people and getting their own voice, the moral lessons take a huge backseat. Like, it's really just kind of grating at this point, and I'm kind of over it, and just like, let the moral lessons die. Kill them if you have to. Like I said, it wasn't that bad this week. It just bothered me because I feel like we didn't need it. I feel like there was a lot of content in the whole Nate's mind control episode bit of it. But so that stuff was good though, you know, some classic mind control Ranger fights his friends stuff. I like that we were continuing something that we brought up in an earlier episode, which was that he needed Nate. We don't know what it was for though, because he just said, I need him for this certain project, and we never followed up on it again. That was kind of showing, like, even though this episode felt kind of evenly split between this Steel discipline plot and Nate thing, like the end of the episode was about the Steel thing, and I honestly thought we were going to get one more quick glimpse and saying like what he was doing or hinting at it, but we didn't follow up on that, but I imagine we will later. So I was kind of surprised we didn't see any more of that, even just like the end of the episode stinger or anything. One cool thing though was we got to see, before Nate got mind control, just a small little detail, we got to see him working on the new Beast X bow thing, which I really appreciate. That's something I brought up last week, is something I really enjoyed about Beast Morphers so far, is I like how they have sort of build up to some of the intros of gadgets and stuff. Like I mentioned how they were working on the Cheetah Claws for multiple episodes before we got the debut, and I liked seeing that, especially after I mentioned that I wish that Beast X mode hadn't debuted so quickly, since Beast Morphers had a history of actually sort of building up to their gadgets and power-ups and stuff. So I appreciate that we didn't debut this episode. It wasn't like, oh, he's working on it, and then when he snaps back into it, he's like, I have the perfect idea, and then he just has a new gadget ready. I like that we got to see it in progress, and then we'll probably see it in the next episode or two. So that was neat. I appreciated that. It kind of made me wish that he had been already working on like a power-up, but he couldn't quite crack it, and then when Devin had that idea last week, that's when it came together of how to do Beast X mode, and it could have been the best of both worlds of using last week's plot for Beast X's debut, but also like the way Beast Morphers is done, the slow build-up, which I think is nice. Blaze and Roxy were in this episode a little bit. I mean, evil version. Not like an evil version, just like a Blaze and Roxy like this one. They were kind of disappointing him. I feel like that's been a reoccurring plot in the villains this season, is they've been disappointing Evox. I don't know is that going to amount to anything or anything like that, or if it's just classic villain disappointment stuff. And I'm still upset that regular Blaze and Roxy aren't in there. I feel like I'll talk about that more at another time, but I think there's a huge amount of wasted potential around that whole situation. And we're only 6 episodes in, but still, I wish we would see them more. Even villain Blaze and Roxy, I feel like aren't getting as much screen time. I feel like that's been weirdly handled. And so yeah, it was an okay episode. Like, I liked the stuff about the main plot. The moral lesson wasn't too bad because, again, it wasn't too black and white, but it still just felt like we didn't necessarily need it. I feel like could have got enough content out of the stuff that this episode was doing with Nate and all that stuff. And how does Steel have the authority to fire anybody anyway, or discipline them anyway? He's just a robot, especially since Zaya Enterprises took over. Human-Gears are canceled. I also like how at the end, when they hire the guy back, when they find out it wasn't his fault, he rides up in a bike. It's like, oh, he already hit poverty. He lost his car. Like, it was just, I thought that was kind of funny. Probably unintentional, but whatever. Overall, I would give the episode a 7. I thought it had some decent stuff, but I just wish we would focus more on the main plot when we need to and not always have to do some sort of lesson. But anyway, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this week's episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications from my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.